Hello YouTube, Jerry Kirkpatrick here, and before we get into the plating portion of this video, that's why you're here, I'd like to acknowledge a couple of new stickers that I've got on my board. The first one is from Chuck at Outside Screwball. And on his channel you'll see a lot of machining and tips on how to improve your shop. He does a lot of improvements around his place that you might pick up a little tip with. And the second one is Randy at Randy Richards in the Shop. And when he sent me his sticker, he sent me a little package, and in said package were several of his stickers and a couple of brass chits and a knocker. And it has my name inscribed on it. Very nice piece. He's making these for sale, and you can contact him through rrintheshop@gmail.com. And these knockers are very handy for on the mill and the lathe, and they're dead blow. That's the neat thing about them. They've got a plastic UHMW, I think it is, on one end, and the other end is brass, and they are filled with an oil and shot. So as you're trying to tap a piece either down in the vise on your mill or true a piece up on the lathe, you know you're not going to hit too hard and get a double hit. A double strike is what'll knock you out almost every time out of alignment. So if you're trying to get a piece seated in the vise, you hit it and you're not going to get that double strike like you do sometimes. So thank you, Randy, and if you'd like to get one of these, contact him and he'll send you the information on how to purchase one. So with all of that, let's get on to some plating. As I stated earlier, this was the first piece that I plated, and to do so I used a wall wart, just a phone charger type of deal, that was 3.5 amps and 12 volts. And with using that, I had to watch the piece pretty carefully to make sure that there were no bubbles being stuck to the piece. I had to agitate it, you know, just move it around, and I moved the wires that were hanging it, so I didn't get any strikes in any one place. So if you're going to start plating, before you even get into it, there are 3 things that I believe you should get, like right now, and then you'll have them when you get started. One is your anodes. You can contact here in the United States Covell, and they have everything. You can get a lot of information off of their website also. So your anodes, which are nickel, obviously. I use it's cast iron welding rod. It's almost a pure nickel stick rod. I use 21 pieces and I get 2 anodes out of it. The second thing, and you should get this right away instead of doing any experimenting like I did. Get yourself a power generator. They're right around 50, 60 bucks, and you have so much more control over the amount of amperage that you're putting into a piece. The surface area of the piece that you're putting into the solution has a direct correlation to the amount of amperage that you're putting into the piece. That's number 2. Number 3 is a small agitator, and I'll show you that also. We paid $11 for the one that I have. I bought a much larger one thinking that it would work better. Way too much agitation. I put a hose on it, drilled a bunch of holes in it so it would almost create a vortex around the tub. Way too much. So an $11 fish tank pump, not a aerator, but a pump. It's like the ones that you would use in a fountain. So those are the 3 things that I think you should get prior to starting your plating experience. One thing I would like to show you is one piece that I'm very proud of. The plating is flaking. It's just butt ugly. After I got finished plating several of these pieces, I wondered to myself, if I increase the amperage and let it soak a little bit longer, will that improve? Will it give me a thicker coating or whatever? So I turned this up to about 5.5 amps, which it should have about 3.5, and I left it in for 5 hours, and I just watched a TV program, several, and don't ever do that. Use an amperage that is sufficient for the surface area that you're plating, and watch the amount of time that you have it in. You should have a piece of paper and pencil. Write down when you start your plating. I use my phone and I use the timer, so about every 15 minutes I will either move the wires or turn it in a different direction. In my tank, I have the anodes on the 2 ends, so I can either go longitudinal in the tank, or I can go transverse and kind of control the areas that are being plated. So with that, I'll set you up over on my plating table, and we'll go through all of the stuff that you're going to need to get into plating, and I hope you do. So what you're going to need to get this ball rolling is a pair of gloves, baby powder that really helps to get your gloves on and off, because you'll be putting them on and off all the time. Safety glasses, the gases that come off of the plating. As you're plating, bubbles form, rise to the surface. If you're in a well-ventilated place, that should not be a problem. I have my north and south door open. We have a breeze through here, so it's carrying all of the fumes, excess fumes out. So that has not, there's a nice breeze. It's about 90 in here right now, so it's so the breeze feels good. So you have your gloves, powder, safety glasses, paper towels, rags, distilled water. Distilled is a must. You can do your pre-rinsing with just regular tap water, but after you do your cleaning, you should use distilled water to make sure of the water break. If the piece is dead clean, you spray water on it and it creates a nice even surface. The only surface tension that is present is around the edges of the piece. If you see the water standing back in any area, you've got to clean it again. I cannot stress well enough on cleanliness for the piece before it goes in, and make sure that you're wearing your gloves. There was a piece that I did. It was coming along nicely. I turned it just with my bare hand. When the piece was done, you could see the outline of my fingers and the thumb on one side. So clean. You'll need vinegar and salt and muriatic acid. You'll also need some brake clean. I use Simple Green. Almost any cleaner that will cut grease is good. And a spritzer of your distilled water. This will be the last thing that you do to check for cleanliness before you go into the tank. You'll need your anodes. These are the ones that I make out of nickel welding rod, and these I'll do another video and actually make a set, because I feel that most of you who are fabricators are going to have nickel rod around, so it's the simplest for me. I'll show you how to make these. Some Scotch-Brite. After you do your bead blasting or wire brushing or whatever, you can use some Scotch-Brite. Get it fairly clean before you go to the Simple Green. The wrench that I showed you right from the start, I used this container to make my first batch of solution, and I used it for, I'm gonna fly around here, and for plating that first piece with that wall wart. And the dimensions on this, as I stated in my earlier video, I like using square or rectangle vessels, because a square, when you put your anodes in there, it just takes so much of the area away. So this thing is 7.5 inches tall by 6 by 6, 6 by 6 by 7. So that was a good size. I have nothing bad to say about it. It worked great for wrenches and small items. You could stay with this for quite some time, but I wanted to get into some of my dollies, stake tools, that kind of stuff. That's when I went to the larger tank. Another thing you'll need is an $11 fish tank pump. You'll need wires for hanging the different pieces that you're going to be plating. You'll need 2 containers of water. This one back here is kind of a maybe a pre-rinse or not as clean water. When you're preparing your material, you can dip it in here. Don't be afraid. When you come out of your acid, which is a 50-50 mix, 50% acid, 50% water, after you dip in here, you'll go right to your very clean water and then into the tank. So let me get some of this stuff cleared out of here, and then we'll go to the other side of the table. Okay, so over here on this portion of the table, I have my tank, which is about 7 inches high, and we'll call it 11 or 12 inches deep, and 17 inches wide. And I've been able to do several stake tools, pliers, everything that I've wanted to do so far has been okay in this tank. So get the lid off. First thing I'm going to put in is the little pump that just sticks to the wall. Next, the 2 anodes, and you should put some kind of covering on them. They suggest muslin or something like that. These are just those yellow rags. They work fine. Next, to hook up your positive, the negative goes to the part that you're plating. The positive goes to your anodes. And when I first started using this larger tank, I had this jumper that I put on one, went all the way to the other, and put my positive to one side, and I found that the drop in the cord going to the other side was not allowing one side of my piece to be plated as well as the other. So I made this one that the positive coming from the power supply, the DC power supply, I go in the middle, hook that one on there, this one on here, and then I have 2 of these copper. This is just a piece of copper tubing that will fit across this way, and I left it extra long because when I get the part as clean as it should be, well, even before that, after I do the bead blasting or whatever, before I do the final clean, I will make up the hangers out of copper. This is just Romex that I strip. I make my hangers before I do the final clean, and that way I don't have to worry about touching the piece before it goes into the tank. So I have one that goes longitudinally, and then I have another smaller one that will go transverse. When I get ready to power up and do the plating, I just put the negative on either one of these and then do my cleaning, hang the piece, and I'm ready to go. So I think, the power supply, in the next video I will give you more information on this, and the reason for that is I want to show you the variation in the amount of amperage depending on the surface area of the piece that you're going to be plating. So in the next video I'll be making the anodes. We'll go through that whole process, and I'll show you how the prep work goes, all of this, and I'll show you making the solution. So the next video should be pretty full. So thanks for watching. Thanks to all of my patrons and people who have bought me coffee. The coffee has helped me buy many of these pieces, the fish tank and the DC generator, power generator. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, give me a thumbs up. If you like what you've seen here, share this video with your friends. See you later.